Hey there, everyone. Quick addendum from Future Monarch here. Just want to say that the video you are about to see, the premise for it, and the initial recording was made before the Gamescom trailer. So everything to do with Lala Barina, Rei Dao, trailer free, and the massive showcase today of live gameplay with the HUD, with the weapons, the monsters, all of that. This video does not account for that. I just figured to make this addendum right here and now before I start the video because obviously this is a topic that is quite late for discussion considering it's covering the weapon trailers, and that some of the information and unscripted thoughts that I have are of course going to be outdated. I asked my Discord if they still want to see this video and they answered yes, so here you go. All I just ask is that if you're going to be watching this video, that you please keep that information in mind, that this is all prior to the trailers and gameplay from Gamescom. Yeah, that's about it. I don't want to delay this any further because the video is already quite long as is, so yeah, enjoy. Hey there everyone, Monarch here, and some people might call me behind when it comes to the lack of videos as of recently, or perhaps covering a swath of Monster Hunter news that has graced the internet. For me, I'm gonna say I know my strengths and weaknesses. And nearly daily uploads on videos that release at 2 AM are not videos I can reliably do. That's why we're here today, though, because all the weapon trailers have been released. So what I'm going to be doing for this video is a little bit unorthodox, but hear me out. I am going to do a ramble video on my thoughts about the weapons and the general gameplay looks we've gotten, on the functions and the main mechanics, and besides that, I am going to be doing a 2-for-1 tier list. You thought we were done with the tier list just because I uploaded that Shadow of the Erdtree tier list? Nah, we got 2 more tier lists here today. One tier list will be for my thoughts on the weapon trailers themselves, and another trailer will be on my thoughts about the weapon exactly. What am I gonna main? What are gonna be my secondaries? What are weapons I'm interested to try out in a demo? So it's going to be a little bit of a weird video today. There's going to be a mix of a lot of things going on here, but I think I can make it cohesive somewhat. Then again, considering this is Ramble Monarch you are talking to, that is not a guarantee, so to speak. I guess before we move into the weapons themselves, I want to talk about the gameplay showcases with the primary functions, and that I am curious to see how this all goes when it comes to the main gameplay. In terms of base mechanics, we obviously know about focus mode, the Sacrets, the Slinger, as well as the Scout Flies. We know that they are coming back. That's all fine and dandy, but it's just genuinely interesting seeing first-hand gameplay of how it all runs, what the quest starting screen looks like, what the fucking map looks like in the bottom left, and also some little HUD elements like monster icons with the Chotacabra. I do find it interesting here how the location of the monster is predetermined from the very start. I'm not sure if this is specifically for the trailer, if this is just for showing off the functions of the game, if we're still gonna have to build up tracks and research, or if this is just what it's gonna be like. Which would be interesting, because I know for some people that was a major downside to World, where they didn't enjoy the grind of gathering up tracks to figure out where a monster is. So if it does change to no tracks being required and you just know where they are at all times, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy for that decision. And you know, we also get handling on what a Sacred looks like. I mean, we know how a Sacred moves from all the cinematic trailers, but like in the game, This is just because I have been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XVI, but it's giving me vibes and similarities to the Chocobos from Final Fantasy XVI with how they steer and slowly walk when you're not running with them. So I'm wondering if it will kind of have the same functionality as the Chocobos, essentially. The same kind of feel with pressing the triggers in or basically walking around the map like that with their steering. We obviously know that with the Sacreds, you can swap your weapons. We know that the Slainer can pick up ammo from a long distance, and as we'll see in some of the weapon trailers, it also has functionality with the weapons for grappling you to the monster to get closer. Now, obviously, despite showing us some of the HUD elements, we still don't know what bars are going to look like in terms of health, stamina, the timer, or even buffs on top of the health bar. And I know that is a major concern for some people, because some reports have come out about a hands-on impression some people had behind closed doors, where they equated it essentially to a Resident Evil 2 remake style of health bar, where it's a heart meter essentially. And I think for me, those concerns are valid, but I don't see why they change it 6 generations later. The health and stamina bar have been pretty consistent throughout all of Monster Hunter's history. It may have had some little embellishments here and there in terms of details on the bar itself. There may have been changes between games with the average size, the starting size, but even still, with all those minor changes, it's still mostly been the same. But if in a day or so, with Gamescom trailer, if that does happen, I am going to eat my words. You can all laugh at me. You all have permission to laugh at me in the comments. Besides that, yeah, we also get a look at focus mode of what it is, and how it handles in terms of turning around with certain weapons or aiming for a monster's weak spot. We know what focus attacks look like, we know what wounding a monster looks like, which seems to be a simplification of the tenderizing gimmick from Iceborne, and that you deal extra damage to the tenderized spot essentially, and that you can use focus mode attacks to deal even more damage. Now that also begs into question what focus mode attacks are going to be like if there's going to be a sort of cooldown with them essentially, if there's going to be a rate of effectiveness where, like with Clutch Claw, you could tenderize a body part or get some Slainer ammo reliably early on, but the more you try to latch on and get Slainer ammo, it'd get a little bit less effective. You'd be on a cooldown essentially in terms of getting Slainer ammo, so I'm wondering if there is a turn down in terms of that with the focus mode attacks. But that's about it I can reliably cover. These are short videos, they're about like a minute long each, and honestly a lot of people have already gone in depth about them and scrunched up every last detail they can glean. So now, let's get to what you're really here for, the weapons. My thoughts on the weapons, on the trailers themselves, on if I will use them, or if they will be an occasional kind of thing. And I think the obvious choice here is to go with the good old reliable, the Greatsword, the default classic, the OG in terms of Monster Hunter. It's the weapon we've seen the most from the trailers besides the heavy bowgun, and, you know, there's not really any surprises here. You get the true charge slash, you get the charge slash combos, you get the shoulder tackle from the 5th generation, though of course we see the attack where you get the uppercut counter from the trailer that just rocked the Doshiguma, and then the focus mode attack, like that's all standard or fair. And we obviously know that the Greatsword has that kind of guard counter against Doshiguma to hold open its mouth. The only thing new we see in this trailer is what seems to be a sneak attack, which some of the trailers also do, and I think that is reported to be a new function of the game. But other than that, there's not a lot of new to Greatsword, just because we've seen it in all the trailers so far. What I do think is the big takeaway from this is how focus mode is going to impact Greatsword. Because one of the biggest hurdles to Greatsword for 5 generations now was that you could very easily whiff your true charge slashes. When you were charging an attack, you could not move. Going into later generations, especially 5th generation, there is a little bit of a turning technique in terms of true charge slash. But if a monster moves completely behind your guard, you still really can't do a lot about it. But with focus mode being able to aim specifically for monster weak points, or like much less turn your weapon around when it's charging on a greatsword, I think that's going to massively impact the way we play Greatsword. So yeah, that's the biggest takeaway I have with the Greatsword. So as a result, in terms of how I feel, it's a decent starting point. It's okay. There are of course changes. There are a couple of changes that we've seen. But the key point here is that most of what we've seen is stuff we've already seen. And I guess also in terms of starting weapons, heavy bowgun. It's heavy bowgun. I think it looks pretty much the same. They're putting a lot more emphasis on the guarding capabilities of the heavy bowgun. So maybe guarding is going to be very important in this game, to have those opportunities, or to hold the monster open for your allies to attack them, or to just have a cool struggle. The biggest change with heavy bowgun is this new gauge essentially, which essentially fills up over time on successful hits, and you cash out on it with special ammo types and attacks that you can do with the heavy bowgun. But other than that, it's heavy bowgun, essentially. It's about what you see. It shows that it can do the blade clash gimmick like Greatsword. You see the different types of explosives. It can stick to the Doshiguma. The biggest change here just seems to be like the level of detail and the new mechanic with the bar. So with that being said, I think I'm also going to put it in okay. There's not many changes. Oh, I didn't mean to put it in good. Okay. There's not many changes, and the biggest change here is with the meter, essentially. I'm feeling a little bit contentious. Let's go for a recent one. Let's go with bow. So, I'm gonna be honest, out of all the weapons that we've seen, or at least in terms of the ranged weapons, bow interests me the most. I think this trailer offers a lot of different mechanical changes to the bow compared to the other 2 weapons we've seen so far. I mean, no less than like first 30 seconds in, we see that it has a new adept dodge, essentially. It has like a Valor or adept dodge. They definitely seem to emphasize the bow's mobility in the trailer, considering that, and also a new leap up attack, which seems to be a repurposing of one of the wire bug moves bow had in Rise. You know, that's all neat. The biggest change here with bow, however, and probably one of the most contentious design changes in all the trailers, is the tracer shot. There are a lot of people I know who are conflicted about this because, well, doesn't an auto-aiming function essentially neuter the practice or skill you have with a bow? If a bow requires distance and spacing, if it requires optimal timing and accuracy, then an auto-aiming mode kind of defeats that purpose, and I can understand that pain for a lot of people. What I think it's going to depend on is in the main game, is how strong is the tracer shot going to be? Like with the focus attacks, is it going to be on a cooldown? How many can you plant on a monster at once? How powerful is it? Is there a damage tax for all arrows that are being attracted to it? We're just gonna have to see. Of course, it's gonna lead to a lot of cool trick shots. I think the focus attack looks neat. I like that they brought back the slinger move for bow from Iceborne, which is 1,000 Wyverns, I believe it was called. So I think in terms of bow, I am going to give it an A. Very contentious, obviously, again, for the people, for the dedicated bow mains out there, and I can understand that, but this is just one of those circumstances where we're gonna have to see. Now, as for something that is a no-brainer for me, Oh, hammer. First of all, fucking love the hammer design they went for here. Holy shit. The armor design in general, with a lot of these showcases, are fucking bangers. I forgot to mention with bow, but the bow armor looks incredible, and the hammer armor here looks like a love child between Great Gyros with the Plague Doctor mask, and then Paolumu in terms of the fluffy kind of, I don't know, just like that kind of material you associate with Paolumu and its armor. I see that here with this armor, and while you can say hammer is still hammer, like it's still the hammer you all know and love in terms of bonking the enemy, having the charged hammer hits, it also shows a lot because it's one of the weapons we see in the trailers to have the dodge, the wire movement option with the slinger, which I'm not sure if every weapon is going to have that. I think the focus attack looks incredibly neat and powerful. It's got a counter now, kind of similar to the Water Strike, Rise, and Sunbreak gave it, but not the same attack. And the biggest point for me, and this is going to be a common theme on this video, it has a frontier move. At the very end of a trailer, it pulls out a move that is extremely reminiscent of extreme style hammers, hold in place and charge spin attack. Besides the jumping up into the air part, this move is pretty much identical to it, and that has me incredibly hyped. So yeah, no, I think this is a no duh for me. This goes into S. Perhaps you could say it doesn't qualify because there's not a lot of changes, like it's still mostly hammer, but I think the quality of the changes here and what it means for me has me incredibly excited. Oh, it looks so good. And now I guess for something controversial to balance out or to put some variety into this list, let's talk about Chargeblade. And I want to make it clear, I am a dedicated Chargeblade main. I have been this way since 4 Ultimate. I love Chargeblade, but I won't lie, with this trailer, I was honestly kind of disappointed. It's kind of like the Greatsword and Heavy Bowgun effect, where it's like, yeah, this is Chargeblade. I like that. I mean, I like the weapon. I like that kind of addition, but Sunbreak didn't do a good job of marketing it in terms of a new switch skill it got, which was yet another guard or counter based switch skill, which granted I know has a lot of practical use in terms of the options you can combo out of it, but for me personally it wasn't exactly exciting, and I kind of feel that as well here. Like, there's mainly just a few extra combos when it comes to the axe mode. There's a couple of new angles it can attack from. We see what the UI looks like in terms of the files, the shield and sword icons. But other than that, it's just like more file AED combos. And then it looks like the SAED has been changed in terms of the first strike. Like the way it's presented here, it goes for like a more AED kind of thing and then does the SAED. I mean, there is what looks to be like a perfect guard, essentially, where you can do a new kind of axe angle swing from it. And it's like, that's all cool, I guess. Like, there's variety now. There's more variety in terms of the combos. There's the perfect guard. And I know some people are happy or like theorizing that like AED can now be practical, or that there's not as big of an emphasis on SAD as there has been for the past few games, which I don't mind SAD, personally. Again, I can be a very casual player. I don't care a lot when it comes to damage, efficiency, or speedrun strats. I didn't care in For You if AED spam was more effective than SAD. I just kind of did whatever I felt like, and I kind of don't see the point here in terms of like, oh, AEDs are now more important because, well, we kind of don't know that. This is all just speculation on the trailer. It's nothing for certain. Yeah. which is why I'm gonna be blunt. Like, I love Charge Blade, but I'm putting it down in the bottom tier. I love Charge Blade, it is one of my mains, but I was honestly expecting way more out of this trailer. Also, the file hit effects with the wave on the SAD feels weak as hell, not gonna lie. Maybe that's just the way it's presented in the trailer, but it was pretty weak to me compared to what I feel it is. But yeah, that's my hot take. I think Charge Blade is my least favorite trailer that they showed, out of all the weapons. Let's go for the other most recent weapon, the Dual Blades. The last one that was shown off, and it's a little bit of, oh, it's Dual Blades, it's what we expect, but I'm also quite ecstatic and curious about the mechanical differences, because there are a lot of mechanical differences. And it all starts right here when it comes to the Demon Mode, where you obviously still have the focus to build up Demon Mode and eventually Archdemon Mode, but now it seems like that certain attacks between Archdemon and Demon will instead drain the meter. So for example, good old Demon Dance. Demon Dance was your good old bread and butter for building up meter for the longest time now. It is excellent when it comes to building up meter. Here in Wilds, there is no meter gain on the clip here. Like, if you pay attention to the bar, there's no increase. It is still decreasing at the same rate, and if anything, there is more meter being lost by doing this. So that tells us now that Demon Dance is no longer the go-to for gain back meter, and that also, Dual Blades is incredibly different now, because now, it's now a matter of using certain attacks to build up meter, and then using other attacks to dispense that meter. And then Archdemon Mode is much the same, but it's constantly depleting. It is going to decrease, it's going to run out, so you're going to have to make the most of it with the new powerful attacks it has. It looks like it has a alteration to Tower Vault from Sunbreak and Rise with that Wirebug skill. And also, yet another weapon like Bow that seems to have a Adept or Valor dodge. And it's really interesting here where after the dodge, there's a little bit of a trail effect that the weapons gains. And there's a different bit of hit effect, and the attack properties here might be altered. So yeah, when it comes to Dual Blades, I think it is an S trailer. I think it is an S tier trailer. I think that they managed to show the core of the weapon, that it is still Dual Blades at the end of the day, but that a lot of the mechanics and systems behind it with the Demon Gauge and Archdemon, and even down to the attacks, are going to be incredibly different. So I am curious to see how that pans out in the full game with how I play Dual Blades, because it has been one of my mains since Free Ultimates. I think next up, let's go for another good old classic, the Sword and Shield. Good old Rathalos armor and the Corona, which looks fucking fantastic in this game, I just want to say, from what we've seen. And I think for me, off the top of my head, it's much of the same camp as Greatsword, where the trailer is still emphasizing the practicality of Sword and Shield, where you can use items while the weapon is out, that it is mobile, you can move somewhat in the combos. They're essentially just showing off the fine-tuned adjustments, where it has a couple of new attacks. It has a focus attack, which uses a few of the animations and attacks from the Metsu Shoryugeki, or just in general, like the aerial plunging attack once you bounce off the monster. It's another weapon that has a perfect guard parry, which is quite cool to see. And it also has a really cool looking down thrust attack at the very end of the trailer, where you backhand grip the damn sword and multi-plunge it into the monster's body. And I mean, like I said, it's an okay. I think it's top of okay at the moment, because it's still understandably Sword and Shield. It's still very much basic in that regard. It's a good old beginner choice weapon. And basically just what the trailer focused on was the fine-tuned adjustments, some of the extra attacks it got to spice up the variety, and I appreciate that. Let's follow up the Sword and Shield with the last of the gunner weapons I have here on the tier list, the light bow gun. And like Greatsword, heavy bow gun, Sword and Shield, all that, I think it's okay. It's still obviously light bowgun from what we can see. The big difference here is that one, there is a charge gimmick, just like heavy bowgun in terms of the meter, where you want to score hits. You want to get those hits to get back meter so you can spend it on special ammo and attacks. The other big difference here with light bowgun is that they really emphasize it is a speedy bastard. The trailer shows the light bowgun fucking zipping and zooming around the whole place, pelting the Balahara from all sorts of different angles, and just heavy duty rolling essentially between shots and repositioning. And besides that, a couple of the maneuvers look cool. Some of the ammos it used seem pretty neat to try out. I'm glad to see that the mine from World and Iceborne is back, or it probably was also in Rise and Sunbreak, but I did not play light bowgun in Rise and Sunbreak, so I'm glad to see that they're still around. I do like the little grenade ammo that they show off here, little Dakas, and what looks to be a mounted Punisher attack towards the end as well. But I mean, yeah, again, it's light bowgun, so I think for that, it goes into... Yeah, it can be down here with heavy bowgun. I think they're around the same placement in terms of that they both have overlap with the charge meter gimmick, but they obviously emphasize one aspect of the other over the other. So, yeah, can't really say much else in terms of that. Let's go for another of one of my good old mains, the Longsword. Like the dual blades, I have been a Longsword main since Free Ultimate, since that was the first game I played that they were actively in. And, oh god, there are a lot of changes here. So many, it's fucking incredible. It shares a little bit of overlap with dual blades in that there's a lot of system adjustments in terms of the spirit gauge with how it functions. There are new versions of the spirit slash combo where you can fucking move during the first and second spirit slash, which is... Capcom, as if we needed more power. As if Longsword wasn't one of the strongest weapons throughout all of 5th gen. Now as for whether this is going to be advantageous, if there's going to be like a damage decrease, or if it's going to be slightly risky on moving, who knows, but you can fucking move when doing a spirit combo, and as long as you can confirm that last hit, that's all that matters. That's obviously like the biggest change right from the get-go for me, and just, what the fuck? Also, the armor they show off, which is Doshiguma, looks fucking incredible. I really like the way it looks. It looks like a fucking G-rank armor, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I am surprised by the level of quality. I like the hit effects and sound design that we see so far. It looks like a nice in-between between World and Rise, which I felt, especially in Sunbreak and going into Rise, like part of the reason I didn't play a lot of Longsword was just that it felt weak in terms of hit effects. Again, more movements with the spirit combo. There's a fucking, what seems to be a distance closer from Monster Hunter Online, of all things, once the hunter here gets the red, where they close the gap after confirming the spirit slash, and they kind of do an overhead leap. And then just like dual blades here, it looks like once you get red, it will run out no matter what. So you have to capitalize on that time and just use the most powerful attacks possible. The spirit combo attacks are drastically different from what it looks like. There's a another Frontier move or comparison people have made with this other attack towards the end of a trailer, where in Frontier it was again extreme style longsword, where you did the altered spirit combo with the dashes, and you just then had this multi-cut judgment slash on the monster behind you. And they seem to borrow that a little bit with the weapon here. The focus attack looks good. I like the focus on the penetrating stabbing slice forward, and then just kind of the Sekiro Ichimonji, which is a neat comparison. And yeah, I think overall Longsword is one of the clear, definitive winners here when it comes to the trailers. It got a lot of changes from the looks of it, like dual blades, and I am incredibly interested to play it in the full game, and I want to see if I will love it in Wilds because, I mean, it's good in Rise and Sunbreak, don't get me wrong, but it's a little too good. And again, the hit effects and sound design just feels off to me. Alright, next up, in terms of weapon, let's go for another recent one with the Lance. And I know my boy Dak is going to be happy about this. Again, yet another banger armor design weapon here, which looks to be Balahara, judging by the scaled look and the spiral shape. And Lance mains will be happy to know that it's basically just more Lance. It's more shield pokes. There seems to be a little bit more maneuverability with the pokes themselves. There seems to be like a running charge you can do after guarding a monster's attacks, and it looks cool. There seems to be a lot more just general shield jabs with the weapon as a whole. And yeah, I really can't say much about this weapon because this isn't a weapon I dabble in. I really don't dabble a lot in Lance. It's not one I play often. But in terms of the changes, I'm going to put that as an A. It still retains the core identity of the weapon. It's still a lot of shield pokes, but like there's a lot new here. Or just some neat changes in terms of more movements during the pokes. There seems to be different poke combos. There's the thrusting shield charge. There's more shield bashes. And the guard here seems to be really good. So yeah, curious to see how people think of this in the future once the game comes out. Then in terms of that, another probably A tier weapon, the Insect Glaive, the third weapon we were shown. Or actually this might be an S, because now that I'm thinking about it, they show off a lot of mechanical differences. The biggest one for me being that you can finally fucking see the extract on a monster part when you're aiming at it. Holy shit. When going through the trailer for the first time, I was mainly impressed by the other attacks they showed off at the end of the trailer. Like, it seems to be that the Kinsect can play more of a role in your combos. There's some aerial maneuverability. There's the fucking meme attack that people have nicknamed the lobotomy, with plunging into a monster skull. There's a lot of plunging into the monster hide with the weapon here. But just the biggest change by far is that you can see extract on a monster's parts, which is the best change. Because previously, it's like you either had to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the monster, either through internet guides or charts, or alternatively, just fuck around and find out. So here, I am really happy to see that they changed that you can now see right out of the gate what extract it gives, and I think that's going to cut down on a lot of the fluff and bullshit with Insect Glaive. And for that alone, just for remembering that, I was going to put in an A, but honestly, because of that, that is an S. That is an S. Just that single change alone redefines the experience with Insect Glaive and makes it so much smoother. Now then, yet another weapon that I do not dabble in a lot. The Hunting Horn. I think I've played the Hunting Horn all of like a couple of times, but besides that, this has not been my kind of weapon. So I can't really say on the finer adjustments that Hunting Horn has made, besides some of the obvious. I like that they repurposed, again, one of the Wirebug arts from Rise and Sunbreak. Like, it still has the thrust forward with hitting the monster, but now it's changed into a fucking guitar solo where you're just jamming out on the Hunting Horn here. The biggest change seems to be with the Echo Hunting Bubbles in terms of the dance that creates them and also their effect, like the visual effect seems different, the way they function in terms of damage with echoing your songs essentially dealing damage to a monster seem different than how they were in World and Iceborne. There's a couple of new movements here in terms of the Hunting Horn of its combos and like some of the slaps it can do. It looks to have some kind of evasive counter or parry towards the end of the trailer that it can do, which is neat, so that it has more offensive options. And I think as other people have noticed, I like that they emphasize that it is a weapon with offensive capabilities. Because I think one of the things that have prevented people from playing Hunting Horn for the longest time is one, of course, the skill barrier with learning the notes and memorizing them in prior games, and second, the emphasis on it being a support weapon. there's always been a connotation in past games that, oh, this is a support weapon. You exist to buff the other hunters. And it's like, yes, the buffs are important. But it's like essentially a healer class in an MMO like 14. You may be a healer, technically speaking. You may be a buffer, but you are still a damage dealer. And even if it is 1 damage is still better than no damage. So in terms of that, then, either A, because there are quite a few changes actually now that I think about it. It's just that I'm not a Hunting Horn main, so I am not the most proficient in speaking about this. But in terms of the weapon itself, I think it goes into A tier. There are quite a few solid changes here overall for Hunting Horn mains, and just in general, the perspective they have here of Hunting Horn compared to the past is a much improved note. Whew! Alright, last 2 weapons, and honestly, these are very obvious ones for me. Let's go with Switch Axe, my good old reliable. The most recent primary weapon, I'm going to say, that I've picked up over the years. And like the other weapons, the weapon and armor design looks amazing. I am really curious to see what it is, what monster it comes from. Probably like maybe a bird or like praying mantis, judging by the blades, some kind of insect. And when it comes to Switch Axe, I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't show off the UI with a sword and axe gauge to see what that looks like. That is one of the biggest elements when it comes to Switch Axe. Just, hey, how does the gauge look? How does it perform? What is the rate of buildup? What is the rate of decreasing it? And I think this trailer strikes a nice balance between B and A for me, because it's still more of the same Switch Axe than we know. It's emphasizing the switching capabilities, but they show off a lot more of the modular combos and variations you can do with it now, with like the different swinging angles it can do, essentially. They show off a guard parry, kind of, with the weapon, which Sunbreak had that, and I like Sunbreak's parry for a time, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm glad that it seems different here, because Sunbreak's was fuck busted. I kind of came to hate the weapon and the parry in Sunbreak after enough time, because of just how brain dead easy it was to land, and the benefits you got for it in terms of instantly filling up your sword gauge. Whereas here, it seems like to be a lot more balanced. It doesn't immediately result into an SAD or AED, whatever the equivalent is for Switch Axe, kind of explosion. It's just a new kind of offensive combo option. Maybe you can choose what to do out of it, or maybe it always goes into this, who knows. It just looks to be really cool and better balanced. There's a fucking new crazy explosion combo where you're just fucking swinging the sword around and it's ridiculous. The focus attack looks neat, and there also seems to be a new overhead attack towards the end, and honestly, I think this trailer is what I wanted Charge Blade to be. Obviously you can say that they're focusing on the same elements here in terms of the morphing aspects, but I just think Charge Blade missed a little bit of the finesse, that little spectacle. It was sorely lacking in terms of that, and also just more variety in terms of the combos and what we were seeing in terms of, like, the sword. I would have liked to see more sword and shield combos, not just axe combos or AD combos. Whereas with Switch Axe, we kind of get a little bit of all of that. So in terms of Switch Axe, I'm going to say top of A, probably alongside Bow. I'm kind of tempted to put an S because there does seem to be quite a few changes, but, you know, it seems to be more tame compared to other weapons like Long Sword and Dual Blades, which are definitely some of the most extreme changes with their systems. And lastly, Gun Lance. Ooh, I think this is an easy S for me. I'm just going to put it out of the way. This is like an easy S for me. Holy shit. Gun Lance, once again emphasizing that it is the fun lance. We are here for fun. We are here for explosions. Here for the booms, essentially. And, oh, this was like the first, or like, I was happy about Insect Glaive and all the others, but like, this was the first one I lost my mind over. Because like, first few seconds in, we now see that you can blast hop with the shelling from Frontier. Once again, yet another move or similarity to Frontier with Frontier Gunlance or Extreme Gunlance, and how you can slightly hop or move when shelling now, and oh, that adds so much maneuverability and options in terms of Gunlance and its combos. There are new slap combos, there are new slap explosion combos. The worm stakes seem so fucking juicy in terms of hit effects. The focus attack, oh my god, the focus attack! You use the worm stake dispenser as a goddamn drill, and it just... It's so cool! It is so goddamn cool! You can move and charge shelling now, it looks like. It's another weapon that has a perfect timing to the guard. The Wyvern Fire looks incredible. There seems to be like a second layer to the explosion, or like build up to it. And just, oh, I am salivating. I need this right now. And one of the craziest details I didn't even notice was at the end of the trailer, where the hunter inputs a worm stake at the beginning of combo, reloads, does a slap combo, and inputs yet another worm stake at the very end, meaning that the worm stake reloading is much quicker, or that there are combos built directly for this, where you can apply multiple worm stakes within a period of time. And I think it strikes that perfect balance of like giving it more maneuverability, but not going as far as Sunbreak with the Blast Dash. And all the new combos it has in terms of Slap Lance now being more effective, or there being more ways to shell with those new Slap Lance combos, being able to move and charge shells. The fucking focus attack, and I smell a golden age of Gunlance coming. And now, since we did the tier list on what I think of the trailers, here's what I think of the weapons when it comes to if I will play them or not. Surprise! To the shock of nobody, nothing's in D. I think going into the demo, whenever that comes out, I am going to try every weapon. I am going to see what each weapon has, what their capabilities, what new tricks they have, the fun that could be had with each weapon, and then go from there. I think with heavy bowgun and light bowgun, they might be elevated into if I'm feeling spicy after I'm playing the demo. If I'm feeling spicy is essentially like occasional weapons. Like, they aren't secondaries, but like if I'm in a particular mood, I might be tempted to play those. Secondaries are if I'm feeling different and want to use something else than a primary, which are a lot of the other weapons I've practiced over the years. So hammer, insect glaive, greatsword, sword and shield, those are all weapons I've dabbled in from time to time, sometimes taking over as mains or secondaries, and here they are again as secondaries, most likely. And then, yeah, the top tier is like, those are still my mains. Long sword, charge blade, switch axe, dual blades, gunlance. Gunlance and switch axe were recent discoveries for me. I think actually Gunlance is at the top of the list. Even though this is in no particular order, I am just super excited to play Gunlance most of all, just because of how fucking cool it looks. And yeah, even if I may not have been impressed with Chargeblade's trailer, it's still Chargeblade. I am still most likely gonna play it and have it as a primary, because Chargeblade is good. It feels good, it plays good, it has a good rhythm to it. I just don't think the trailer sold me well on it. Long sword and dual blades, that's self-explanatory, and then switch axe, I am really excited for. But yo, that is all for the end of this video. Oh my god, we are an hour and 13 minutes into recording. I am so sorry, Future Monarch, for the trimming down that's going to be taking place when you're uploading this video. But those are all my thoughts on the primary gameplay trailers and weapon trailers, as well as what I think of them in terms of trailers and what weapons I will be playing when it comes to the demo. So, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts on the trailers are. What trailers did you think were your favorites? Do you disagree with me on Chargeblade? Because I know that's probably my hottest take, maybe besides Bow. And what weapons are you interested in trying out in the demo? What do you think will be your primaries? What do you think will be your secondaries? Or what are going to be your spicy choices, your occasional picks, if you're feeling in the mood? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. I'm really curious to see what everybody thinks about the trailers, because there has been massive hype drummed up with these trailers. They each have an insane amount of views within the first few days, and considering the amount of views World and Rise's trailers got, and how these trailers as a whole are at least trending each day they're released and are higher in view count, I think lots of people are excited for Wilds, and so am I. So, until the Gamescom trailer, or whatever news I decide to cover, whether that be with myself or with other people or whatever format, you can all look forward to that. With all that being said, I have been the Monarch of Dragons, and I hope you all have a fantastic day / night wherever you live. Peace and Coolest Vaults.